The courtroom buzzed with quiet whispers as the bailiff called the case number. A tall man in orange prison garb shuffled into the room, shackled and flanked by 2 guards. His name was Marcus Tate, a decorated Marine who had served 3 tours overseas. Despite the medals on his record and a spotless service history, he was now sitting in jail, accused of assaulting a police officer. An accusation that didn't quite fit the man who had once saved an entire unit from an ambush in Afghanistan. His eyes scanned the courtroom, calm, focused, but there was a fire smoldering beneath the surface. In the gallery, an older woman clutched a crumpled photo of Marcus in uniform, her lips trembling with silent prayer. Reporters scribbled in notebooks, sensing something bigger than just another criminal case. Judge Helen Ramirez, known for her no-nonsense style and sharp mind, adjusted her glasses as she read through the file. Her brow furrowed deeper with every turn of the page. The prosecution sat smugly, confident in the badge-heavy testimony they had prepared. According to their version, Marcus had resisted arrest during a routine traffic stop, no body cam footage, conveniently malfunctioned. But what made the judge pause wasn't just the flimsy evidence, it was the letter she'd received that morning. Sent anonymously, it included classified documents and a memory card containing a dashcam recording that contradicted the entire arrest report. She glanced at Marcus again, then back at the prosecutor. "Mr. Tate," she said, her voice cutting through the silence, "you served this country for over a decade. Why are you sitting here in chains?" The prosecutor began to object, but Judge Ramirez raised a hand. "No, I've read your file. I've read more than your file. Something doesn't add up, and I intend to find out exactly what that is." The tension in the courtroom shifted. Marcus straightened his back. For the first time in weeks, he wasn't just another inmate. He was a soldier under fire, and the truth was now within reach. The silence following Judge Ramirez's words was thick enough to choke on. The prosecutor, David Klein, shuffled his papers, clearly rattled. He had expected a routine case, a quick conviction based on the testimony of 2 officers with spotless public records. What he hadn't expected was a judge who questioned the narrative, or a Marine who looked more like a war hero than a criminal. Judge Ramirez leaned forward. "Mr. Klein, please explain to this court how a man with no criminal history who holds multiple commendations for valor ends up arrested with no video evidence, conflicting reports, and no formal statement from the arresting officer." Her tone was sharp but composed, slicing through the arrogance that had blanketed the prosecution. Klein fumbled to respond. "Your Honor, Officer Daniels claimed the defendant became aggressive after being asked for identification. The officer feared for his safety and acted accordingly." Marcus clenched his jaw, but stayed silent, just as his attorney had advised. But his fists tightened in his lap. He hadn't acted aggressively. He had questioned why he was being pulled over, asked if there was a reason, and within seconds was yanked from his vehicle, slammed to the ground, and cuffed. No Miranda rights, no explanation. Just fear in the officer's eyes when he saw Marcus' military ID. It had all spiraled from there. Judge Ramirez tapped her pen against her notebook. Fear? A trained officer feared for his life when facing an unarmed man seated in his car, who also happened to be an elite military operative trained in de-escalation. The gallery stirred. Reporters scribbled faster. The prosecutor tried to redirect, but the judge raised a file. "I also received this," she said, holding up the manila envelope that had been left in her chambers. "Inside are documents and a memory card that, if verified, paint a very different picture of what happened that night." Marcus' lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we ask that the contents of that envelope be reviewed immediately. My client has maintained his innocence from the start. That footage could exonerate him." Ramirez looked at Marcus. "Mr. Tate, did you send this?" Marcus shook his head. "No, Your Honor. But whoever did, they want the truth out there." Ramirez nodded slowly. "Then let's bring that truth into the light." The courtroom projector flickered to life as the clerk inserted the memory card from the anonymous envelope. Everyone leaned forward, attorneys, jurors, spectators, as the grainy footage began to play. It was dashcam video from a nearby car parked across the street, dated the same night Marcus had been arrested. The angle wasn't perfect, but the audio was surprisingly clear. The screen showed Marcus's black SUV pulled over with hazard lights blinking. Moments later, Officer Daniels approached from the driver's side. His posture was tense from the beginning. The sound picked up Daniels demanding ID in a tone already laced with hostility. Marcus's voice came next, calm, firm, respectful. "Officer, may I ask why I was stopped?" Daniels didn't answer. Instead, he raised his voice. "Get out of the car now." Without waiting for compliance, he yanked open the door and reached inside. A struggle ensued, but Marcus never struck back. He could have. His training made him more than capable, but he didn't. He kept saying, "I'm not resisting. I'm a Marine. Please tell me what this is about." Daniels slammed him onto the hood, twisting his arm behind his back. Then, as backup arrived, the body cams clicked on, just in time to show Marcus already in cuffs. The courtroom was frozen. The judge's expression darkened as the footage ended. Klein swallowed hard, realizing the damage done to the prosecution's case. "So," Ramirez said, her voice dangerously quiet, "what was the justification for this arrest again?" Klein tried to answer, but his voice faltered. We believed the officer acted in accordance with department policy under perceived threat." Ramirez cut him off. Perceived threat? That man remained composed, even while being physically assaulted. The only threat here was to the truth. Marcus sat still, his jaw clenched, but his eyes were alive now. He wasn't invisible anymore. His attorney stood up. "Your Honor, we move for an immediate dismissal of all charges against my client, and we request a full inquiry into Officer Daniels' conduct." The gallery burst into murmurs and hushed gasps. Ramirez didn't hesitate. "Motion taken under advisement. Court is adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow. But let me be clear, this Marine won't be ignored any longer." Marcus looked around the courtroom, not for validation, but for justice. And for the first time since that horrible night, it didn't seem so far away. The following morning, the courtroom was packed. Reporters filled the back rows, pens poised and cameras ready. The previous day's video footage had already gone viral, spreading like wildfire across social media. The image of Marcus being slammed onto his own vehicle while calmly pleading had struck a chord with the nation. Headlines read, "Decorated Marine brutalized during routine stop, an honor in chains, justice for Sergeant Marcus Cole." But inside the courtroom, the air was heavier, charged with a new intensity. Judge Ramirez returned to the bench, her expression unreadable. As Marcus sat beside his lawyer, his posture was straighter than ever. He wasn't just defending himself anymore. He was carrying the weight of every veteran who'd been forgotten, every black man falsely profiled, every voice silenced under the guise of law and order. His attorney stood and addressed the court. "Your Honor, in light of the evidence, we again move for a full dismissal and the immediate release of my client. Furthermore, we request the court open an investigation into the systemic failures that allowed this injustice." Judge Ramirez nodded, then turned to the prosecution. "Mr. Klein, do you still intend to pursue this case?" Klein shifted uncomfortably. His voice was quieter now. "No, Your Honor. The state is dropping all charges. We recognize that Sergeant Cole should never have been detained." The room erupted, not in celebration, but in stunned, restrained applause. People were still processing what justice sounded like. But Ramirez raised a hand. "This is not the end. This court is launching an inquiry into the conduct of Officer Daniels and the practices of the precinct involved. I will also be forwarding a report to the State Attorney General's office." She looked directly at Marcus. "Sergeant Cole, on behalf of this courtroom, I apologize for what you endured. You served this country with honor and were repaid with humiliation. That ends today." Marcus stood slowly, heart pounding, throat tight. He tried to speak, but couldn't find the words. So instead, he nodded, a silent, powerful nod that said more than a speech ever could. He wasn't broken. He wasn't bitter. He was standing strong, proud, and finally free. The days following Marcus's release were nothing short of a whirlwind. What started as a local injustice had erupted into a national reckoning. News networks replayed the courtroom footage alongside his military honors, painting the stark contrast between a man who'd fought for his country and a system that had failed to protect him. But Marcus didn't seek revenge, he sought reform. He refused television interviews that offered easy headlines and instead met with veterans groups, civil rights leaders, and lawmakers behind the scenes. His goal was simple. No other service member, no other black man should ever face what he did. A viral movement had begun. #Justice for Marcus trended for weeks, but soon evolved into something bigger. #Protect our veterans. 1 week after his release, Marcus was invited to a special session at the state capitol. Governor Whitmore himself wanted to meet him. As Marcus walked through the grand doors in his pressed dress blues, the entire chamber rose in a standing ovation. Lawmakers, staffers, and even his old commanding officer who had flown in from out of state applauded as he approached the podium. The governor stepped forward, holding a folder. "Sergeant Cole," he began, "on behalf of the state, I extend our deepest apology. But more than that, we're taking action." With that, he unveiled a bill named the Cole Act, which would require mandatory de-escalation training, body cam compliance, and a task force to oversee police treatment of veterans and minorities. Marcus accepted the honor, but again, said little. "This isn't about me," he said softly into the mic. "It's about every name we don't know, every person who didn't get a judge who asked why, and every life taken or destroyed by injustice. I'm just one voice, but together we're louder." As he left the podium, a little boy in the front row saluted him. Marcus stopped, smiled, and saluted back. That moment was captured by every camera in the room and shared around the world. It wasn't just the story of a Marine wrongfully jailed anymore. It was the beginning of a movement that reminded everyone what true justice looked like. Not just a courtroom victory, but a legacy of change.